Well, I have some fantastic news and some not so fantastic news, but I guarantee at the end, it's going to make sense and we're going to feel good about it. So, the Ontario budget came out, and the Ontario budget, wah, 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 doesn't sound like that great, right? We're spending a ton of money, more than ever, record cash, but don't worry, we're on solid footing. We're going to pay it off. It's not going to be a problem. That's what we always hear, right? Every year. It doesn't matter if it's the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, it doesn't matter. Ontario unveils the biggest budget ever, $204 billion budget, but it says this one with little ease to daily affordability issues. Now, it says little in the way of new affordability measures for investors. Now, the real action to not only face the current turbulence we see in the global economy, but emerge from it stronger than ever. It's funny, that sentence right there, I've heard every single year for since I've been born in every country. That's like a go-to line. It says above target inflation and high interest rates and general labor crunch and possible recession is what has brought all of this really tough times. But what I wanted to show you, the officials said a drastic increase over previous outlooks was due to inflation, higher taxation revenues, personal and corporate income tax. So I'm going to come back to this, okay? Because this is really, really important. They had higher revenues because of personal taxes and corporation taxes. How is it higher than ever? It was a really tough year. We're going to be getting to that. This is really, really important for you guys to understand. So if we look at Canada, Canada has this massive debt clock, $1.2 trillion, mega crazy. This was half that just 2 years ago, or when the lockdowns happened. This was only 680 billion before. They have spent that much cash, unbelievable, which means that inflation has to continue skyrocketing for quite a few years. If you double the money supply, the cost of everything should be doubling. And so we're not there yet. We're probably up 50%, but we're not there at double yet. Our share, $35,000, 34,636. This is per person. So this is a lot of do-re-mi that you and I are in debt, but we're talking about Ontario. So let's check out Ontario. Ontario is the largest non-federal debt on earth. I don't know if you guys heard that. Largest non-federal debt on earth. And this is where you live. So we can't get past that $35,000 that we owe to Canada. No, but we owe another $33,000 to Ontario. You're married? Oh, you have kids? Well, we got to start stacking those numbers on top of each other. Your chunk of change is pretty gigantic. All right. So if you go to Ontario's budget, and I got to tell you, when you look at it, you're like, wow, it feels pretty good. You know, you're looking for minerals, you're going to build cars, you're going to have automakers, voluntary clean energy credit. Once you look at the bullet points, you actually start saying, wow, this looks really good. This looks promising. I like this, man. Life is going to be pretty. But remember, those bullet points always look great. If we go back, and this isn't against one government, we're not a political channel, but one government will promise this much housing, the next government promises this much housing. The last time that we had a federal government, they said we're going to build millions of homes, millions. They'll just rain from the heavens. We haven't seen them. But it's not this government. This is not what I'm saying. This is every single government always makes these glorious promises and they don't usually come true. So we have to be rooted in reality, right? We generally build about 200,000 houses per year, but the problem is we just brought in 1 million immigrants to Canada. A million. We don't have places for them to live. No wonder there's a crunch. Now, if we break it down, we know Canada was in debt. Oh boy. Now we know Ontario's in debt. Oh boy, that's the like state level. Toronto, the city, $1.4 billion shortfall. Oh my goodness, guys. So this is unbelievable. The country is in massive debt. Provinces are in massive debt. The cities are in massive debt. Us, the citizens, are in massive debt, record debts. We're watching the charts from Canada and United States, and their savings rate is going like this. If we're watching their credit card usage, the United States just hit a record $1 trillion. Straight up. So this is the problem. We have debt on debt on debt on debt on debt. And if we remember, it doesn't matter what country you talk to, almost every single president of the country or prime minister or whatever was asked these questions over the past couple of years. We're printing so much money, to which their response normally is, we're at record low rates. But what about now that rates are to the moon? Okay. So remember, who normally gets squashed when there is a bad recession and everyone has so much debt? The larger your debt, the bigger trouble you are in. And so a lot of people look at some one guy who has one house and he's in trouble because interest rates have gone higher. But what about the guy who's got 10 houses, 20 houses, 30 houses? He has even more debt. He's even more susceptible to big fall. But now what we're seeing, look at the cities, $1.4 billion in a year. They have massive debts. They can barely afford this 5, 6, 7% on their debts, or the provinces or the countries. So whenever this happens, there's always an equilibrium. So remember, if you throw a rock in the water, waves, and it kind of goes outward, and then it all settles down. So every 5 to 7 years, on average, this will even itself out. Even it out. It's a good thing. Inflation, when it comes along and these recessions come along, what it does is money never disappears. It just redistributes. It just takes it from one area and puts it in another area. This has been happening since the dawn of time. So let's take a look. Let's do a little bit of research together, okay? I'm going to pull up a screen here and I want to share with you, and maybe you and I, maybe we could doodle a little bit together. Does that sound fun? We're going to try to make sense of this crazy world that we're living in, you guys. Let's take a look at this right here. This is the rule that I want you guys to follow. For every 1% that the interest rate changes, your home changes by 10%. So we're going to use this as an exact example, okay? I want you to take a look right here. We're going to say that interest rates go up 1%, and what happens to your home? It tanks 10%. Same time, if your interest rates drop 1%, what happens? Your home goes up 10%. Have you seen what has been happening to the bonds in Canada and the United States now that all these banks are in big trouble? Of course, you saw them. They're going like this straight down. They've gone up from like 3.6 down to 2.7. What is that? That's just about 1%, right? 0.9%. So what would that bring on your house? We just learned this math. 1% equals 10. So 0.9 would equal 9% plus or minus on your home. Did the rates go up or down? They went down. So that means home prices will temporarily spike up. If you're heading into the spring market like you are right now, this is a fantastic time because you have this artificial pump in prices. So if you were on the fence in January, February, March, guys, you know me, I'm the only economist that's also a realtor out there. And I've been telling people since last March, sell your home, sell your home, sell your home, sell your home all along the way, because the prices were just continuing down like this, straight down. The prices are following these rates. But what we have right now is that prices were falling down and now they've gone like this. Now it will probably continue to go down. But you have this lull right here where you have a really good option when people's mortgage rates have fallen, and it'll make it easier for them to buy a home. So this is kind of like a really good zone. How long will it last? I don't know, but let's keep watching that. Also, I wanted to refer you back to the sentence that we had talked about before, that the governments, provincial, federal, were making more money than they ever have. So one thing that we do know is, let's say that a loaf of bread went from $2 to $3. That's like 50% up. Whatever, if you had corn, I don't care what it was, and instead of $1, now it was $1.50. Everything has gone up. So we know when things go up, we now have to make more money, right? We have to make more money. People have second jobs, third jobs, and they continue to slave away to try to pay for food for their family and housing. We know rent prices have gone up. Everything is going up. So people have to find ways to work more. Mom, dad are working. They have side gigs and side jobs. Everybody's working it. Okay, but here's why the governments are making more money. Do you know that up to like 30,000, you have lower tax? And now I don't want to be specific to Canada, okay? Because this doesn't matter if you're in the States or any country. We're going to try to make all these numbers 100, 150,000. When the tax code comes out, regardless of what country that you're in, this might be 12%. This will go up to 15%, 17%, 20%, 25%, 27%. And these are the lines, right? That these are the tax brackets that a country will be in, okay? Regardless of what country you're in, it doesn't really matter. So you know that last year, maybe you were making $50,000 and you were paying 17% in tax. Now that the cost of everything has gone up 50%, you now have to make $75,000, right? And so if you make $75,000, all of a sudden it boosts you here to this higher tax bracket. Now you're in this zone, 75, 20%. Now you're having to pay even more of the cash that you're making away in taxes. And so the governments actually, when inflation happens, and inflation is going up at huge spikes, they're winning because number one, their debt is becoming easier to pay off. Number two, they're getting you on your taxes like this. You're paying a lot more in taxes because now you're in a higher bracket. Big trouble. If you want, you guys, try to read some books. This guy I always recommend, Tom Wheelwright. I like his book, Tax-Free Wealth, a bit better than this one. This is for more wealthy people, but Tom Wheelwright, go check that out because it's ways for you to pay no taxes legally. Very, very, very important for you guys. So right now we're having this temporary win. And where I want you to place yourself is, let's say if we have a house, average house in the United States, I don't know, 450,000, average home in Canada is probably about 700,000. We have a lot more expensive properties in Canada for several reasons. One of them being the climate. We have very, very cold winters here. So you have to have extra double pane windows, extra insulation in the walls. We have to build basements because it has to go below the frost line, snow bearing roofs on top. Costs a lot more to build homes in a harsh environment. Number one. Number two, we brought in 1 million immigrants this year and they got to find places to live. And so the housing crunch, the demand is so insatiable. There isn't enough houses for everybody. So it's kind of like everyone's fighting for a property. So let's just take these two examples. This one property right here, we're going to just use a regular number, okay? $500,000. Now say that you own that with cash. And this one over here, we're going to say it's a $500,000 property, but we're just going to make it easy numbers and just say that it is all on a mortgage, all of it, 100% mortgage. So you don't have any money in the deal. This one, you own it. Two scenarios. And we're also going to assume 50% inflation. Now, we've already been in massive inflation for several years now, 2 years, but we have a lot more inflation to go. So just imagine these two scenarios, okay? $500,000 for you to own, $500,000 on a mortgage, both 50% up. What would happen? We know that if inflation was 50%, the home would go to $750,000, okay? In both scenarios, right? But in this scenario from 500,000 to 700,000, because the cost of living is also 50% higher, you're at equal. You didn't make any money at all. If the cost of every corn cob, every milk, every egg, and everything went up 50%, you made 50% on your property, okay? But now you could still buy only the same number of eggs, same number of everything. On the other side here, you went from owning 0%, okay? We had $500,000 mortgage. We owed 100% of it. Now, when inflation happens and it goes up 50%, the property went to 750 grand. But wait, we only owe $500,000. So we just made $250,000 by doing nothing except having debt during inflation. This is the key right here, guys. This is the key, is to own that mortgage. You want to be able to make that $250,000 just by holding some debt. So the key is to love inflation. I love it. I'm so happy. And I hope to use this to make a lot more money. And the only way you could do that is hold good debt. The governments are winning by having huge inflation. The capitalists are winning by having huge inflation. You could be a winner with huge inflation. You just have to get on the right side and understand how money works, you guys. I want the very, very best for you. I hope that you can make it. There is a lot of trouble that's coming, but a lot of opportunity. So if anything, I want you to be eternally curious. Ask questions. Try to talk to your friends. Talk to other people. You could send me messages below. I'd love to hear what you think. If you like these types of videos, I'll make more of them. Please leave some comments. Give me a thumbs up. Click the notification bell. Subscribe. Anything. It would really, really help out the channel. We really appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon, you guys. The next 2 years is going to dictate the next 2 decades of your life, and I'll be with you along the way. Have a great day.